may get a shot, they may get a tryout. But those that actually make a living is less than 1% college student athletes. So it's incumbent upon institutions to prepare them for life. As my coach used to say in college, fellas, you got to be ready because the ball's going to stop bouncing someday. And you got to get ready for something else in a career. But I do think there's the opportunities out there. And I say that, Rob, because in my lifetime, sports, and thinking now of professional sports, has gone from this activity that occurs at a big league stadium or arena that we go watch, and it's really neat and it's entertaining, to now sports is its own industry in this country. The volume of opportunities for people to do something in sports like you're doing that doesn't involve playing the sport is unbelievable throughout the globe. Throughout internationally, there are tremendous opportunities for young people who might want to do something in their sport, but realizing, hey, I can't play this forever, but I can do something, whether it's coaching or some type of administration or some type of marketing. All sorts of opportunities are out there. So I think young people today, I think they do have perhaps a better understanding of, I'm not going to play this sport forever.
I would say, there's that cliche that it's not what you know, and then they go, it's who you know. And I was like, yeah, but if you know that person, what's going to make that person want to call you if there's a job opening? And I've been fortunate. I mentioned Jason Linders a couple of times. So he's a former college football coach, assistant coach, got in academics here at UNLV when I was in grad school. And he basically hired me at South Florida, talked me into joining him at Grand Canyon, also worked with him at Chicago State. I would say, yeah, hey, he helped me. It was that connection. It was who I knew in that case, but he knows a lot of people.
Sure.
Why was he calling me? So you have to put forth that effort. You have to show that you're good at what you do, that you have a positive attitude, that you're willing to work hard, and that you can contribute, because, that person, they're putting their name and their reputation on the line if they're bringing you in and hiring you in that situation. So what are you going to do to stand out? So, network, it all starts with the people you're around, your coaches, your academic advisors, professors, people, if you have a part-time job, even the people you're around there. So I think that's something that, when we talk about networking, sometimes gets lost.
Networking is literally the entire reason as to why I've, gotten to where I am. And I don't, claim to be anywhere at some grandeur level or anything, but we're continuing to build. And I go one beyond networking, because networking sometimes is just like, hey, we meet and we always like, what I don't like is the networking events that everyone just comes in and randomly tries to sell each other on their services. I look at it more of like collaborating and how can we merge ecosystems instead of just networking. So how can we merge to have our communities meet for the benefit of everyone, set a service base or whatever that looks like, instead of us just trying to one-on-one collaborate, because now 1 + 1 = multiple instead of just 2. So the way that we've gone about it was, I didn't like consciously network in college, but I realized that I was building a lot of skills, just like networking with even the umpires and, other baseball players, et cetera, and building brand there. But then once we were out, when we started this podcasting is one of the best ways to rapidly network, because you're creating a shared experience between two people in a way that is not a high pressure scenario where no one's trying to sell anyone on anything. Like, you're simply giving somebody a platform to share their story. And now you know so much about them. And when people are able to talk about themselves, people love to talk about themselves. So you're creating this emotional rapport already. And then over time, as the vibe continues to grow, relationship capital gets built, and then mutually beneficial things just end up happening, organically. And we just started podcasting over the last 5 years. We've done it 5 times a week for 5 years straight. Good things happen when you stay that consistent, and you start to bring a value proposition offline. So it's been a great way of being able to speed up the networking process. But where people try and cut corners is immediately going in for an ask on something. I look at relationships like a bank account. Most people try and withdraw from an empty bank account. I'm depositing, sometimes over depositing, where it's almost like radical giving. And eventually people just organically ask, like, how can I serve? And I purposely still don't ask for anything. But the karmic laws of the universe just end up having really great things that happen from it. So that's my version of networking, what I believe to be.
Kelsey, talk about playing sports growing up and how that shaped you leading up into college.
Yeah. So, I mean, I traveled all over the country playing travel ball. The goal to play in college started super early for me, probably around 10 years old. I knew I wanted to play in college. And you don't even realize it, I think, in the moment sometimes, how much it does shape you as a person. And I think looking back, even just the traveling and just teammates and the relationships and the resilience that you develop just from bad practices or good games, and just really does shape you for the long run. I was really fortunate. I just think that, balancing some of the fun and traveling and the excitement of the game while also just the intensity of getting a good night's sleep every tournament, and, trying to eat well and sleep well, and just playing a team sport and showing up for your teammates really did make me a better person. And a lot of what we talk about too, which we'll talk about speaking wise, I was really quiet and kind of shy, and I think softball really gave me a voice and kind of, taught me how to project and advocate for myself and just learn to tap into my strengths. So I think just growing up in sports really did shape me, and I see that more now than I did in the moment, which is cool.
Talk about once you were done playing, talk about that transition. And I know you mentioned about kind of already, looking at other things, but talk about how that went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a little bit of foresight there. So I was kind of like preparing for the second career while I was still playing. But when I actually made the decision to hang it up for good, it was a little bit of a slap in the face. I'm not going to lie. To be going from super active to like working from home environment where you're a lot of the time sitting and very stagnant, and being in a part of the country where not a lot of people speak English, so it's really difficult to connect with people. And so I think at first it was like a little bit of a shocking experience, and it took me a really long time, and I'm still like finding my way after all of this. I mean, it's been like a year and a half now since I retired. For like the first year, I maybe went into the gym like a handful of times. Like I didn't really have a desire to be there. I'm not working towards something, so now slowly starting to get back into that space and like, what is it that I want to do next? Because I don't want to just go and work out at the gym. I want to stay competitive and like have fun at the same time and be social. And so, I think just navigating the energy difference and like the activity level difference for me has been the most challenging part. But otherwise, like stepping in and doing the performance coaching with athletes, I absolutely love it. Continuing on with the podcast, absolutely love it. And like, I love connecting with people and having the conversations that we are now and that we've already had a couple times before this too, So I think for me, it's kind of like a seamless transition in that sense, but still like building a business on your own and having to seek out some mentors and people that you can kind of learn from. Like all of those are really, really important. Whereas if I, had just stepped into like a corporate job or being employed somewhere, it would have been obviously much easier, but definitely would not be as fulfilling at the end of the day.
Give advice to Matt as a high school senior. Like if you can go back now, give advice to you.
Well, I mean, obviously, when it comes to pitching, I would have changed some different things throughout my career. But I don't really have a whole lot of regrets in my career when it comes to that. I feel like, I did the things I needed to do from the workforce. If I could back then, I told myself to buy a bunch of Bitcoin so I could be retired right now. But otherwise, obviously, I think I was proud of the way I worked. But I would say if I had to change anything, I would go back to how I also live on the mental side. I think, preparing myself mentally for the ups and downs. I don't think I was as prepared for the failure and the struggles that come with professional sports. That was some of my biggest pitfalls when I was a young kid coming up, the young prospect, is like I said, I dealt with some failure my first year, but the next 2 years I really put myself on the map, and I didn't have as many failures. But then once I got to the big leagues in AAA, that was the first time that I really faced a lot of failure and doubts. And
so let's talk about networking, connecting, and just especially talk about the importance of doing it while you're still playing.
Yeah. This one is such a massive piece that I didn't even, like for myself, I didn't even necessarily understand the magnitude of how networking can really set you up for success outside of things. And again, I didn't necessarily learn it. And honestly, I give a lot of credit to the foundation because I learned a lot of my networking through the foundation. And so like I said, what I gave, I received 100 times back. And oh yeah, there we go. For me, I think if athletes can understand the power of networking a little bit sooner, they can really utilize it a lot better. And like I said, I got lucky. Foundation really helped me. But small things, especially like, for example, and this is networking without even knowing it. When I got tied into the Epilepsy Foundation back in LA, the lady who we met, who was running the Los Angeles chapter, she is now the CEO of my foundation. And stuff like that back in college, where I'm not thinking this is networking or where this relationship's going to going. I'm just giving back, doing what I can. But lo and behold, that relationship turns out to be a massive relationship in my life right now.
Take the time to step outside of yourself a little bit and really dive into getting to know. Obviously this happens anyway, but really getting to know and become close and build relationships with a lot more people in your immediate sphere on your team, not just the 2 or 3 that are really close to you, but really learn about everybody as a human being, because those are the people that you're going to want to be able to stay in contact with once your career ends, because those are going to be the people, as you alluded to, that maybe could connect with you on a business venture, or maybe they become a CEO of a company and need somebody talented like yourself, and vice versa. You can give back to them. I mean, athletes are in such a unique position to build relationships, unlike any other situation, I think, in college, especially because you've got this huge group of people that convenes in one place every single day for years, and it's not a small group. In my case, it was 100 guys every year.
Yeah.
So it's just a unique advantage that everybody should take advantage of, as soon as they realize how valuable it is.
Don't be afraid to embrace change. It would be very short, precise, because coming after, and I'll elaborate on why I said that, right? A lot of us, or a lot of the athletes are, open, or they only stick to a lot of the coaches, right? In the real world, the coach, precise, could be your manager, or the managing partner, or the owner of the firm, right? So because the business world is constantly changing, a lot of the athletes that I come across, they want to start their own practice. Entrepreneurship, is a very lonely journey. And you could hire coaches, you could hire business coaches, you could hire professionals. That does come at a cost, which in the initial stages of the entrepreneurial journey is not required, right? So don't be afraid to embrace the change and go back to the roots of what we grew up with in the gym, or on the field, or on the tennis court, or on the football field, right? So constantly those repetitions is going to compound results, probably 10 times more than you've ever imagined, if we stay consistent with our efforts in the real world, like we did in our athletic journey.